Kenyatta in Redlands, California. This all happened in Redlands, California yesterday. When I saw that yesterday, I was wondering, I wonder where Kenyatta is. Hey, Kenyatta, welcome.
It was, hey, Tom, it was, man.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
What happened?
You don't know this, but I run a consulting firm. It's basically me, and I do subcontracting work. I do all types of corporate legal documentation, OSHA compliance, reporting, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And one of my clients is one of the largest supermarkets in the state of California. You'd be familiar with them because I know you know the state pretty well, especially Southern California. Mm-hmm. And their headquarters is, as you know, the 10 runs through kind of, as it traverses from Los Angeles, you get Ontario, and then you get, Colton, and then San Bernardino, then Redlands, and you type on to Palm Springs.
Right.
And I was off of Edge. In fact, you're familiar with Loma Linda Hospital. You know that main drag there where the front of the hospital is, that's Anderson Street.
Okay.
Anderson turns into Tippecanoe as you go further north into San Bernardino. And anyways, the client's headquarters was there. And I was there for a very brief meeting. My meeting took about 20 minutes or so. And it's really ironic because I had just spoken with Danielle earlier, because I didn't want to get on the air with you, but there was just something I wanted to talk to her about. Because you may recall that I mentioned to you a conversation with Michael Medved, and I was telling her I was going to send her that audio. Anyways, so after that, which was pretty close to the time you were about to end your show, probably 15 minutes before the end of your show, I headed off to my client's site. We had about a 20-minute meeting, and everything was normal. I left to get back on the 10 freeway, and I'll tell you that it was unbelievable. The amount of police presence. There were cops in camouflage, cops in there were M16s all over the place. There was close air support. There was FBI on the ground. I mean, it was unreal. Anyways, I got kind of, I didn't know what was going on because this had transpired so quickly. So I'm kind of trapped in this roadblock. I don't know what's going on, but something inside of me said, this is kind of what it ended up being. Well, right at the time, I turned on the radio to try to figure, what the hell's going on, and the phone rang. And it was my daughter, and she said, "Dad, which we live in Redlands, and as you know, San Bernardino, depending on where you are, is about 10 miles away. Mm-hmm. Could be 5 miles, depending on where you are from Redlands." And she says the school's on lockdown. Something told me you were in that area, and I was, I'm just concerned about it. And I said, "No, I'm fine." But this was within a half hour of the shooting, Tom. This is what's weird. Why would the school 10 miles away, why were they on lockdown in Redlands? Well, of course, what I'm trying to get at is that apparently the police had a bead on these folks a lot earlier than they were saying, which I can understand for tactical
What you
reasons.
say apparently, what leads you to that conclusion?
That apparently they knew. Why? Because what I'm saying is why would they lock down the school in Redlands?
Right. I would think, in the apparently part that I would fill in the other half of is after what happened in Paris, I would think that policing policies in the United States would be recalibrated slightly to say whenever there's an active shooter incident that looks like it might be a Paris-style terrorist incident, and, they hit several different places.
So you're thinking from a perimeter standpoint.
Right, exactly. That any place, it probably used to be any place within 2 miles of the incident had to be locked down, and probably now it's any place within 20 miles of the incident, or it might depend. In a place like New York City, it might be 30 blocks, whereas in a place like Redlands, it might be 3 miles.
Well, you know what, and that's really what I wanted to really say to you. So, I told her, I assured her I was okay, but that stayed in my mind, and I didn't transfer my worry to her. And then ultimately we get home, and right when it got dark, I mean, all of a sudden it sounded like Vietnam. I mean, it was unbelievable.
You could hear the gunfire from your home.
Oh God, it was just unreal.
Amazing.
And even today, that entire area from Loma Linda Hospital, probably 2 or 3 blocks past the 10, from Waterman to I can't think of the street on the other side, but there's probably a good 10-block area at radius where everything is completely shut down. It's still very much inactive.
Around the home of these people. Yeah, well, they found three pipe bombs now. I mean, it's. I think there's probably a good reason to lock it down.
Well, you know what, Tom, and that's what's sad. You and I, you got me by a couple of years, but not too many. We grew up doing what they call drop drills. Remember?
Oh yeah,
the nuclear
duck and
war.
cover.
Yeah, my daughter was so casual about this. They drill for these active shooter situations.
Phew.
And I want to make one more point, which was really interesting. I talked to Danielle about this. During the whole, we had wall-to-wall coverage all over the media here in Southern California, you can imagine. And until this guy's name came up, the word terror never showed up. His name wasn't released until about time, so 9 p.m. your time. And all of a sudden, Syed Farouk came up, and all of a sudden, and the FBI official position to this day is we have not ruled out terrorism. But let me tell you something. That doesn't make any less 14 people dead.
Right.
It is that, and that it is totally blowing me away.
Yeah.
What difference does it make?
Well, it makes a difference if
Clinton.
not to be channeling Hillary. The difference that it makes, I think, is that if we can understand the causes of violence, then maybe we can do something about it. And one of those causes is, quote, Islamic terrorism or radical Islamic terrorism. And so then we have to ask, what's the cause of that? Because by and large, that pretty much didn't exist until maybe 30, 40 years ago, thereabouts, somewhere in that neighborhood. And, where has that come from? And for that, you really need to go back to the history of Wahhabism in Saudi Arabia in the 1930s and the deals that were cut between these hard clerics and the Saudis. And that's something we need to pay attention to. But, had we not started bombing Iraq, well, you know where I'm going with that, Kenyatta. I'm out of time. Thanks a lot for the call. Great to hear. I'm glad to know you're safe. Thank you. To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.